Pigtail for a stove question. When measuring or trying to find the correct pigtail for your stove, one may need to first determine how many wires the stove has, how many wires. This particular pigtail here is for a stove, and one may have one hot, two hots. This may be a neutral, and the green may be a ground. So and again, we have 1, 2, 3, 4. So if we look at the prong, we have 1, 2, 3, 4 in correlation here. So now the topic here is when changing the stove. If you're going from one electric stove to another electric stove, the question is, first off, make sure that you get the pigtail for the stove and the correct pigtail for the stove. Sometimes it's easy to get a drier pigtail. So, and if you do, this is probably not going to work because it's different amperage, etc. However, it may save you if you understand what you're doing. So my opinion is first I would go to the stove, the existing stove you have, if you're trying to match apples and oranges to oranges. And I would get the model number and serial number, and then I would see what the electrical specs are from the model number and serial number, even if you have to call or one has to call tech support. So and sometimes tech support, it varies how good they are from company to company, but sometimes if one has the model number and serial number, they may be able to give you the specs on the particular stove. Hence, one may need to match the stove up. If not, and if you get a different scenario there, you may have to have an electrician to come in and do some hard wiring then, which may be an extra cost. So it just depends on what you're getting into and how extensive one desires to get into the job. So if you're looking to match it up, so we have a 4-wire here, and sometimes what I do is I just take and if I save a pigtail, I'll mark it Sears stove, and then on here I have, say, number 6 wire, four strands of wire, four wires. Shouldn't say strands. Let me correct myself. 4 wires. So if we have a number 6 here, and then 4 wires, okay. This would, if you have a number 6 wire, this may indicate that you may have a 50-amp breaker. So, and one way to tell this is simply get a flashlight, find your breaker box, and go. And if you see it marked stove, but it normally most often with stoves, many times, I shouldn't say most often, but many times stoves may have a double pole breaker. So if you see a 50-amp breaker, or if you see a 40-amp, etc. And in this particular case, if you see this, then you need to match it up, or either have some kind of configurations done. And that configuration could be, if the wiring is too small, you may have to upsize the wiring to a heavier gauge wiring, which would be a heavier gauge plug-in, which would make sure that you get it. So when you get your pigtail, specify how many amps, etc. you do when you go to the box store, the supply house, etc. So they will know which particular one. And again, here a very point that needs to be highlighted here. When you're going to get your pigtail, make sure that you indicate that you're getting this for a stove, not a dryer, and vice versa. If you're getting it for a dryer, make sure you get it for a dryer, not a stove. And make sure you have somebody in the store that's somewhat familiar with electrical, because if you don't, you could get home and realize you've got the wrong wire, the wrong pigtail for the wrong application, or worse than the wrong pigtail for the wrong application, you could have the wrong gauge wire. So then you have to load back up and head back out, and deja vu all over again. So anyway, this is one way to mark it. So if it's a number 6 and a 4, normally that would be somewhere around a 50 amp. Sometimes even you might see a 60 amp breaker for a stove. But if you see a 40 amp and this and that, you may have to get the stove that's the same amount of, that carries the same amount of amperage. And you can take watts divided by volts, and this should give you how many amps. So if your stove, get the model number and serial number, perhaps even before buying the stove, and then find out how many watts and how many amps it pulls, and then match it up accordingly. So this is a Pigtail. This would be a number 6 wire, and this number 6 would have 4. The newer configuration, some of the older configurations had 3 wires. Take this wire out. Some of them had 2 hots and a ground. Some of the newer configurations may have, and don't quote me on this, the electrical gurus can add more light to it, but I think you got 1 hot, 1 hot, 1 hot. So this would be, say hypothetically, 120, 120, which collectively would be 240, your ground wire, and then this may be your neutral wire. So I'm not sure how neutrals plays in. Sometimes there's on the 240 applications, oftentimes I'm not sure if there is a neutral, but sometimes they put this in. So that's an electrical question for somebody more in the know than this video covers. But realistically, so if you've got a 4-wire system, try to match it up. Sometimes you can make it configure if you've got it and alter it, but if you match it up and go with what you've got, and make sure you get the right Pigtail for the right amp, and make sure you get the Pigtail for the stove and not the dryer, and vice versa. If you're getting a dryer, make sure you get the Pigtail. A lot of dryers may be 30 amp and a number 10 gauge wire. So and again, one can get a flashlight, and if you can find your breaker box, and if you somewhat adept at electricity, look and see what your stove is now. And if your stove is a 50 or 60 amp, this is a good indication of what you got. You can extrapolate the data. But in electricity, it's you never assume anything, because you never know who's been there prior to your visit. So so anyway, just this is a 4-wire for a stove, number 6, and 4 strands, and that's 1, 2, 3, 4. And if we look at the plug, we have 1, 2, 3, 4. Pigtail for a stove. Thank you for watching.